Alright, back for another episode of Dwarf Fortress. This is exactly where we left off in the last episode. Haven't played since then. And this time around, I think I'm just going to continue setting up our new meat industry, butcher industry, and try to get the kennels to work. Because I noticed last time that we didn't have any actual dogs here, so I might have to get to work taming some. And I'm pretty sure that there are cats in our fortress. Could have sworn there was actually, but yeah, I can see lots of the animals in here. But apparently, we are not locking them up in cages, and it's absolutely 100% required that we lock these cats up because they are incredibly dangerous and evil creatures bent on the destruction of our fortress. I'm going to go ahead and put those all in cages. And the rest of the animals are still scheduled to get caged. It looks like our trapper, or whoever that is that's bringing the animals there, is rather slow at it. So I'll unpause it. And again, we're almost complete with the miasma vent room. We're just removing the last downward staircase from the upper level. And once that's gone, then I'll remove the staircase completely, and we can start actually butchering things. And it looks like there's now a baby donkey that's been born. Probably in our dining hall, because it seems like that's where most of our donkeys hang out. But yeah, I don't know why. Animals tend to just congregate around the dining hall. I think it's because it's a meeting area and they like to go to meeting areas, but I don't really know how to make them avoid it, because I can lock the door and they'll still get in. Like, they'll wait outside the door until a dwarf goes in, and then they'll run in really quickly before the dwarf has a chance to shut the door again. So yeah, they constantly crowd my dining hall until I start putting them in cages, which is what we're doing now, so that's good. The only thing nice about cats, what they do is they will capture vermin, keep them out of our food stockpiles. Also, if a dwarf sees vermin, well, sometimes, they'll get an unhappy thought. So it's important that you keep clear of vermin. Definitely a lot of idlers, but considering the amount of dwarves we have, I mean, 103, only 39 of them are idling, so that's like a little bit over 33% of our fortress is idling right now. Obviously a pretty big percentage, but I'm surprised even a larger proportion is not idling. Wonder what's going on in here. Engraver, woodcrafter. Looks like people are going into the mayor's stockpile and drinking out of it. And it also looks like our dwarves have yet to put all of the things back in the stockpile. I'm looking for areas to smooth down still. There's tons of area in our fortress to do that still. And soon we're going to start going down to beyond the 3rd floor, because it's the deepest we've gone so far. And the reason that I've just kept it limited as far as height-wise is because I don't want to breach the caverns. Sometimes the caverns are really low to the map level. Had that happen a number of times where I've only gone down probably 4 segments or so, and I've hit caverns. I didn't want to actually hit the caverns at all yet, because we still have a lot of stuff that needs to be done. We don't even have our military set up adequately yet, at least in my opinion. Although I'm pretty sure objectively people would agree that our military is pretty lackluster. It consists right now of Link and 2 other people that I've added since the last video, and none of them have any weapons yet. Our most powerful weapons will again come from Pedro and Joseph Stalin and our woodcutters, because they are the only ones who hold something sharp. You can see they're still bringing all the animals to the cage. Another masterpiece has been created by someone named Ustath Ozkilzon. I don't even know what profession they are. And it looks like things are going pretty well. Got stuff being completed. Almost ready to finish up the manager's office for Epic Cheese Grater. Or wait, is that who I was going to put? No, Elite Gamer, I believe, is the person who is suited for a managerial position. Let me check. Elite Gamer, Skilled Organizer. Yep. So I will be making you the organizer of the fortress very soon. Although I'm pretty sure you are like a very useful dwarf, like you have some kind of skill. I forget what it is. That's really good. Let's just check the creature list real quick. Looks like still mountain goats are the only things that are outside. Now, time and again, we've seen, well, I've seen anyways, I don't know if there's been too many on the actual footage, kobolds coming and taking stuff. I think they've mostly stolen stuff from the previous stockpile we had on the surface, but I don't think they've breached the fortress ever, because we do have a lot of people constantly shuffling back and forth through the main halls and stuff. I'm going to go ahead and assign these red rooms real quick. Give one to... Wow, we got a lot of people without beds. There. I'm going to be setting up more dormitory areas in the future, because obviously our one that we have near the main hall is pretty much full to capacity, and we have a lot of dwarves still without beds. In fact, I think the one near the main hall, this one right here, only holds like 50 dwarves maybe. Not for sure, but in any case, we're going to need a lot more, and for that, I'm going to be building an entirely new complex, and I think it's going to be on the 4th floor, or else it's going to be towards the front of our fortress, where the gigantic causeway is. And soon I'll be completely walling off, and perhaps figuring out a way to collapse the main entrance. Oops, went up a floor there. So that we can focus only one exit entrance to the fortress that will be through the main causeway into just a gigantic open area that I have yet to designate. And I'll be expanding the nobles' quarters pretty soon, I think. First, though, I want to get all of our administrators assigned. And there's that. Okay, so that's plenty of new people sleeping in bed. Should increase the happiness of everyone in the fort as a result of less people sleeping in the hospital dormitories. Actually, there's a new dormitory I can set up here, and that will enable many more people to start sleeping when they feel like it. And we're probably ready now to begin our forge industry. So I'm gonna, as soon as the dwarves have finished digging out, oh, it looks like they have, at least that floor. So now I'll tell them to dig out the staircases here. Oh wait, how do you get rid of these? Let's see. Remove upstairs and ramps. That's Z. Alright, so they'll come there and remove these stairs. There's no threat of collapse in this instance because the floor that the stairs are on only are one tile high, and that's the same tile that the dwarves will be standing on to remove them. No threat at all there. And I've noticed that instead of bauxite doors, I think I'm going to be switching to kaolinite because the red color there is much nicer than bauxite. Like you can see, it's kind of a brighter red with a really defined like door frame that's white, whereas the bauxite, these doors here that go to observer's room, they're made of bauxite. They're really dark around the edges and they're completely red. And I prefer having the doors made of something that's easily recognizable. And I think I gotta find out where other observer's old room was because he does not need to have the 2 rooms. Let's see. Oh yeah, I forgot there's a rooms button. Is it R? No, that's combat reports. You can check in here to see individual rooms and buildings that you made. It's capital R. So we're looking for observers, other bedroom. That's the office he has. That's the great bedroom. Decent quarters, decent quarters. Oh, here's the other one, modest quarters. Zoom to building. Oh wait, how do I? Okay, there it is. Oops. So we want to go ahead and pick this room here and give it to somebody else, because no longer is there any need to give Observer the crappy old room that he had. Although it wasn't that crappy. I mean, it's pretty nice as far as common dwarves go. Having a chest and a cabinet. All that stuff. And you can see on the mini-map now, the map has changed pretty significantly. Like, this is kind of what the map will look like in the initial arrangement. Like, all this little grayed out white spaces will be almost all over, except for the patches of water that'll go down to the below the surface level. But on our floor, you can see almost all the bottom right portion there is covered with stone, and there's like these little well shapes. And that just represents our civilization being pretty vast on that level. But you can see, even though a lot of that area in the map is covered, there's way, way more space. And most of this area here is completely uninhabited. So there's really not any threat of running out of room. And our dwarves are on the way to come remove these staircases. Let's see, do we have anyone actually scheduled to slaughter an animal? No. Okay, well what I'm going to do is go to our animals, which you can do by going to Z for your stores, and then kitchen, or wait a minute, where is it? Animals, yeah, animals. And then you can select them for slaughter. Oh, and we can also see who's got pets here. It looks like Plump Helmet Punk has adopted a dog and given it a name of Tobal Deleth Small. But anyways, I'm going to start slaughtering some of the llamas that we have and mules. Why not horses too? Donkeys, a couple more horses, cows. Well, I'll leave a cow in a bowl. Another donkey, llama. Those are pets, so we do have a pet cat. That's unfortunate. Horse, donkey, 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 mule, donkey, donkey. Oh, that's horse, actually. And I'll leave. I don't know what this means. Uninterested. Go ahead and slaughter those kittens. And the live rat. I would tell them to slaughter that, but I can't. So there we go. And that should be plenty of meat for our butcher to use. And so now our butchers will be able to slaughter the animals. We've got 3 butcher shops ready to go. I don't know how many people are actually set up to do the butchering task, but I believe there's like 4 or 5 of them. So there should be plenty of people heading down here. And what they'll do is they'll go over to the cage, they'll take an animal, they'll put it on the butcher shop, they'll kill it, and then they'll harvest its organs. So yeah, it's a pretty pleasant process. And I forgot to smooth out. Apparently not. I guess the dwarves are just busy sleeping, eating, drinking, etc. at this point. And the last table is ready for placing in the office of the manager here. I'm going to go ahead and assign this to Elite Gamer, who is here. And grant him the position of manager. And I've only sometimes have I ever really bothered with the manager, because I tend to be pretty hands-on as far as ordering goes, but with a fortress with this many dwarves this quickly, I'm going to be delegating a lot of tasks to the manager, I think. And I think I've told you in past videos why the manager is kind of unreliable compared to regular management. And that's just because the manager is a dwarf who has to sleep, eat, drink, etc., and so they aren't going to constantly be available for managing. Oh my. Oh, that's our melancholy dwarf. So he's dead. Don't think I ever built a coffin for him. But what I can do is whip one up real quick at the mason's workshop. And do that by hitting P for coffin. Make a couple of these. And then I'll be moving his body to a corpse stockpile in the meantime so people don't walk by it. And the corpse stockpile I'll be placing right out here. So someone will move his corpse up there. And the fortress will get moving again. Now, notice the back of this area is not smoothed out either. I'm going to select that for smoothing. And I looked on the YouTube quality. Even at 720p, it's kind of hard to tell what smoothed fortress looks like in Iron Hand. But I think I might do like a... at some point in the future, I'll probably do a short video at 1080p just of the fortress, like a view of the fortress in 1080p to see all of the different aspects of it. But that'll be after I've completed a lot more of it. Okay, so we've started slaughtering our first animal, a llama, and we'll be harvesting its organs pretty soon. So I hit Q, go to the butcher shop. They're still in the process of slaughtering animals at the moment. But I would like to butcher those animals as soon as we've finished slaughtering a couple of them. Stray horse has been struck down, so yeah, they're gonna be slaughtering them with rapidity. I found out that lignite is very dangerous if it touches magma. And I know we have at least a little bit of lignite somewhere in the fortress, but luckily it's not our primary fortress itemy thingy. Ooh, our meat stores have gone up a lot after we started slaughtering these animals. You can see they're up to 111. And we do have an infinitely restockable supply of these animals, so long as I let them breed a little bit. But I think I'm going to get rid of pretty much all the ones that we have currently and start working with imported cows and bulls, and then use them for milking as well as for slaughtering. Because I know cows are an incredibly efficient way of gathering meat. Horses, not so much, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, the dwarves, you can see them carrying pieces of meat. They're going to take that back up to the stockpile so it doesn't rot. And that should give our dwarves plenty of stuff to do. I'm probably going to have to designate out a new food stockpile. So I will dig out the food stockpile for this dining room, this noble dining room. Oops, I hit the remove designation key. And I think one of my favorite things about Dwarf Fortress is actually just laying out the fortress. And I like seeing these projects come together over periods of time. And that's kind of like the accumulation of all these different planning things that have happened has led to a pretty amazing result, in my opinion. Definitely have a very large focus on sort of the hull design of the fortress, where most of the elements of the fortress are based around large open areas that lead to other large open areas, and then there's kind of like little hollows out for buildings and such. And what I'd like to do on lower levels is really make it more of buildings in a hull setting. So like it's going to be multiple floors high, and instead of just being like a cavern where you're walking here, the roof is right above you, the floor is right below you, and there's buildings on the same floor as you, it'd be more like you're walking along and there's open space above your head and there's multiple story buildings next to you that are not completely encased in stone but are freestanding basically. And I'd like to do that underground. Uh, I've usually, when I do freestanding structures, I've done them on the surface, but I have completed a few underground ones, and I think they're just some of the coolest things you can make. So that's going to be one of my goals once we hit the lower levels. And man, we are really slaughtering these animals quickly. Our food stockpiles are rapidly expanding as well. Designated dump real quick. Do that by setting up a zone and then giving it a dump tag by hitting G. And so what that'll do is allow me to use the designation of dump, and it will send whatever's in that designation that's a loose item to the dump. And that's how I cleared most of the stone from the nobles' quarters, is by using the dump function. Most of this area, though, was done by use of a ton of stone from the lower level craft shops. Alright, so this has been completed down here. I'm gonna go back to statue duty, just constantly make statues. And now we can probably good time to start experimenting with the manager, giving them some tasks. And I think you do that by going to, well, you do it by going to the jobs list, the manager, and then you can set up an order here. So you like hit Q, and then you could tell, this will tell your manager to give this job to everyone in the fortress, just to like, instead of you having designated going to like the crafts workshop and saying I want wooden crafts, the manager will instead like give an order for all people to get to work on making crafts, and they'll fulfill the number. And so it's much more efficient in that regard, but I prefer to in a lot of cases do it by hand. You can see there's just tons of different things you can make. This goes through pretty much every available material that is in the map, and through all the items as well. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with that, but we don't need anything right now. We're just waiting on some goods to get finished that have already been designated. I'm going to go ahead and create a statue garden right here in front of that office, because that will make dwarves gather in the office occasionally, and they'll have parties there sometimes. It'll be a wonderful, happy time for everybody. And I'm going to assign it to observer as well. So now that the mining designations are back in this area of the fortress, the main causeway will be back under construction. So that's good news. And Chelsea has just gained enough skill to be designated as an actual engraver instead of just being an amateur one. Don't remember what your original job was, but that's been your profession for some time now. So you can see this is obviously one of our less experienced unnamed dwarf miners, because they aren't leaving behind as much stone. And right now I kind of prefer that, because we've already got so much loose stone that we're never ever going to run out. Like, no matter what kind of project I choose to build, I'm never going to run out of siltstone, basically. And the other mason's workshop doesn't have a job, so I'm going to queue up cabinets. Let's take a look at the statues around here. Okay, those ones don't have anything special about them. Anything here? No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Huh. Well, I do know the engravings in here do have some interesting stuff on them. Tower caps, a warhammer. Okay, here we go. Engraved on the wall is a well-designed image of Mingcot Blocked Roughness, the Dwarf, and Dwarves by Usen Ilrussen Mingcot Blocked Roughness. Oh, that was the author. Mingcot Black Roughness is surrounded by the Dwarves. The artwork relates to the appointment of the Dwarf Mingcot Block Roughness to the position of militia commander of the relieved cannons in the midwinter of some illegible number. And this engraving is named the Legions of Bath. What about this one? Engraved in the wall is a finely designed image of Volal, the deity of the mountains, volcanoes of fire, metals, minerals, and jewels, depicted as a female dwarf by Kumil Bomarankatus. Volal is striking a triumphant pose. Anything else? Okay, here's one. Well-designed image of two forgotten beasts. Okay. And all of the ones that are engraved right now, our fort doesn't have very much history, so most of the time when our engravers are engraving, they're going to be talking about events in the game world. That overhead map that you saw in the first video when I was embarking, yeah, all the stuff that's happening, that has happened out there, our dwarves apparently know about somehow, and so they recount those tales in engravings. I don't know yet if I'm going to bother engraving any of the floor tiles throughout the fort, because I don't know, floor tiles with engravings on them tend to get really cluttered, and you can't really tell what's a good engraving and what isn't. The wall tiles tend to be much better, and the columns obviously are going to allow us to engrave much more than we'll probably ever need to engrave at this point, especially considering that they're going to be pervasive throughout the lower levels of the fort as well. So right now we're just waiting on our new mining areas to be dug out, and our our fortress to start getting into a rhythm of getting jobs done almost all the time without having to constantly give orders to them. And a bunch of people are eating, drinking, storing item in barrels. Looks like with the new butcher's industry up, a lot of our dwarves are going to be able to constantly kind of go there and deal with moving the meat to a closer stockpile. And what I want to do with this main causeway that's kind of on the third level is branching off here. I'm probably going to create a new dormitory section, and then I will be leading down to the fourth floor. Fourth floor structures will be probably again the gigantic causeway, and I want to create a very large open chamber at the center of our fortress on maybe the fourth or fifth floor, where we can start getting to work on some of the freestanding structures that I'd like to build underground. And then soon I'm going to start working on the glass industry as well, because we do have sand available. We have some sand right there in the stairwell, but then right across the river there's tons of sand, so I'll probably get a tunnel going from this area here to go and exploit the sand resources that lie just across the river. That is sea lamprey in there? Brook lamprey. Yeah. Always nice to see those fish swimming around in our wonderfully crafted aquarium that I built just for them. does look like the next floor down is safe from caverns, but I can't tell for sure. The reason that I'd be able to know it all is just because in our previous fortress, uh, if I can find the entrance again, the floors that we dug down to, see this layer here is still like bituminous coal. And bituminous coal usually doesn't occur on the same floors as caverns. I think it has to do with the rock layers, I'm not entirely sure. It looks like there's like a baby cow sitting in here, but not chained to anything and not in the cage. I think it's like waiting there because its mother or father is inside the cage, so it won't be uh, able to go anywhere on its own yet because it's still a calf. Oh, never mind. It's wandering out. No, it's following this dwarf here. Matthew Chris. What is Matthew Chris? Matthew Chris is a metalsmith. Oh yeah, that's the really good metalsmith and blacksmith that we have. Unfortunately, all of our smiths have no work for the moment. Okay, this new area here is done. I will smooth it out, and gonna have to, because it's a stockpile, gonna have to dump these rocks so that we can store items there, because wherever a stockpile is, they can only store in areas that are not occupied by an item already. So the fact that those rocks are there will like basically make it so that the stockpile will always be half full of rocks and it cannot be completely used. So it's important when you make stockpiles to clear out the materials that lie on that the same floor. I do have some random remains here, probably from a rat. A large roach. I think that the entire, yeah, basically the entire remains stockpile that we've had is full. So we're going to have to dig out a new area for that pretty soon as well. And I don't think this job will like ever get done over here in the bottom right of the dormitory, because I'm constantly getting new things from my dwarves, my miners, to dig out, and they never have time to get over there and start dealing with the old, really, really, really old job. Doesn't look like there's any miasma leaking out of our butcher shop yet. But when there is, it'll be able to float through those fortifications and up into this shaft. And I think we cut down all the animals that were scheduled for slaughtering. Still a few left, it looks like. And most of the rest of the animals in the fort are dogs and cats that are pets of people. Just smoothing out these areas right here. It looks weird whenever a smoothed part of the wall comes in contact with an unsmooth part of the wall, because the smooth part kind of like explodes or something before it gets to the unsmooth portion. Wow, 6 idlers. We have a lot of people doing stuff right now. Wonder what it's all about. Looks like a lot of them are eating and drinking at the moment and sleeping. The rest of them appear to be dumping items, storing items in barrels and stuff like that. once this causeway is dug out to the end of the hall completely, I'm going to start designating out the forges around this area here. And this will only be our temporary forge location. It'll be there as long as we remain on the upper levels of the map before we hit any magma. And I'll be moving the wood burner over there as well and setting up a new wood stockpile, because the element we need to make coke, which is how you power a forge, is wood charcoal. At least at first, we'll need a lot of wood charcoal. So we've been constantly making tons of charcoal with the wood burner here. We'll have a large stockpile built up. Oh, that's ash apparently. Should probably switch that over to charcoal. Well, we have a large stockpile of ash now, it looks like. And because we've got woodcutters that are dedicated woodcutters, constantly going out there and cutting down trees, we also have a pretty much constant supply of wood in the wood stockpile. Yep. Well, I think I'm going to cut it here and bring you back when something of significance happens. Alright, I'm actually going to cut it here and pick it up in the next video. I've got class in just a little bit, and so I've got to get ready for that. But when I come back in the next episode, you'll notice quite a lot of changes from the last video. Or from the last segment anyways, and the fortress will be considerably more developed. So until then, it's Clarification, and see you next time.